This is the Bush Whisperer, coming at you from the most beautiful penguin sanctuary, southern tip of Africa, Cape Agulhas, Simonstown, Boulders Penguin Sanctuary. I've come to talk to you today about sensitivity of the energy field and certain sensations in the body, and what to make of it. There are a lot of different ways in which one can experience the sensitivity of energy. Obviously, one can see it through one's eyes. So we'll start with the eyes. When you're starting to see those little dots, lots of little dots everywhere, this is the beginning of experiencing the pranic field. And a lot of people have had a lot of these experiences and they just aren't aware of what they're seeing or what they're experiencing. So when you're staring, say, at a blue sky, and there's lots of imperceivable little dots, and if you allow yourself to zone out, as it were, into this sphere of dots, one will notice that these dots are continually popping in and popping out of existence, almost like lots of tiny little microdots everywhere, almost like they're not perceivable, but they are there. And as you observe these dots, you start to notice that they're moving very, very quickly, and that there's almost a flicker rate to the nature of reality. We call this the flashing colors. If you want to experience the flashing colors, work with complementary colors. Artists probably understand this well. The simplest way to experience this would be to draw a green triangle on a red background and put within that green triangle a red triangle, within that red triangle a green triangle, and within that green triangle a red triangle, within that red triangle a green triangle. Try this, see what happens. See what happens to your eyes. Stare at it for a while. You'll start to notice a flashing sensation. You'll be in tune with the element of fire if you do this. The background should be red. It's basic principles of how to design yantra, how to design tablets that will open you up to different grades of etheric vision with your eyes open. You'll notice that if you stare at a green object for long enough and you close your eyes, you'll see a red object inside your mind. This is how complementary colors operate through the subconscious and the conscious vehicle. On the inner planes, you see the complementary of what you're seeing on the outer plane. Were you aware of that? Start to observe color. If you look at a tree or a plant, you might notice on the ends of the shoots that there's conglomerations of these dots. There's more of them. The life force, the prana, there's more of it. You might notice certain radiances and currents, almost as if it's moving out of the plant, like the ocean in a sense. If you watch the patterns in the ocean move, it's similar, different but similar. And then you'll be able to understand how these currents are flowing through living things. Work with this, use it, observe it. If you observe this flashing background of reality, what I call the bit rate, upload, download, happening really, really fast, you might start to notice that behind the flashing dots there's a luminosity. And this luminosity is behind all things, like a little outline. And you start noticing everything has this luminosity to it. Now you're starting to see the ether, the etheric substance. If you observe this etheric substance for long enough, you'll start to notice that there are patterns, shapes and forms bound in this etheric substance. If you observe through this for long enough, you'll start to notice that behind these grades of this luminosity, there's different frequencies of flicker rate. And as you change the frequency of flicker rate, you might notice colors. You might notice a sphere of color behind things. And if you look deeper and continue to contemplate this, you'll see more color. Until you start to notice that there's this beautiful auric vibration around. Anybody that has had any entheogens will understand what I'm talking about by that luminosity behind all things. If you've been in the wild, in the jungles or the forests or nature, and you've been in an altered state of consciousness, you probably understand exactly what I'm talking about, this slight flashing background, this luminosity. It's part of the template of reality. But you don't need entheogens. They'll just get in the way. You'll have the experience, but you won't know how to get there consciously. The point is to be able to consciously get to that state of mind. That's the bottom line here. So it's all about concentration. It's about awareness. The sphere of vision can offer all sorts of wonderful, exciting experiments. When I walk through the penguin sanctuary, I like to observe the energy around me. And you can allow yourself to get used to seeing the energy to the point where you can at any point just look at something, focus, and start to see the energies around things. There are other ways of experiencing the energy field. Hearing, sound, listening to the template of nature, listening very deeply, until you start to notice that the sound is in a bed of silence, and that all things are springing from a well of silence. That silence is the currency of sound. It's an interesting concept. Contemplate it. And you'll start to notice that underneath the sound and the silence, there's something that connects the silence to the sound. People get tinnitus, and tinnitus is one thing. Tinnitus is an objectively loud kind of a tone of ringing, and I believe it's got a lot to do with electronics. You're hearing the subspace frequencies of the electrical field, essentially, and it's becoming disturbing. But when you listen deeper, beyond that heavy ringing, and you might hear that heavy ringing sometimes, you'll get that if you have been around too much electronics, too much technology, if you've been on the dance floor, say, loud music. But if you develop your ears carefully and listen in nature, you'll notice there's a very, 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 very distinctively fine grade of high sound. It's pitch, it's tonality. And if you allow your senses to shift, to move into that very fine grade of tonality, it's not an objective sound. It's a very unmanifest sound. You'll start to notice that that sound is behind everything. And it's sort of coming out of silence. It's if all things are coming out of the sound. And as you observe more deeply, you'll notice that that sound isn't just one sound. It's a whole octave and spectrum of sound. And as you go deeper into the sound, you'll notice that there's more going on there. You might start to notice hearing other things. You don't want to do this too much. You want to do some kind of grounding exercise before and after doing these training exercises, and don't overdo it. You don't want to start hearing voices of the planets, and you can get to that point. Planets are talking directly to you because they're living beings. It's a bit of a head trip, but that's how this works. The proprioceptive sensations in the body. When you're aware of energy, you'll obviously feel sensations around the heart. The heart might feel heavy. You might feel a pressure in the heavy sensation on the heart. You very often will feel a sensation in the center of the head, almost like a pressure. An expansive sensation. Could come with tingles. You'll very often feel tingles in the nape of your neck, and a pressure that will form in your throat if you do lots and lots of inner practice and inner work. The throat chakra, the Visuddhi chakra, or the sphere of Duat, is actually a filter. Think of it as a filter. Prevents you from taking in more spiritual energy than you can actually digest. Literally, in your energetic digestive system. Because your energy system digests in the same way that food is digested, through your chakras. Understand that. Realize that. If you want to understand the energetic system, understand the systems of the body. For the body systems are template laid over the energetic template system. There are different grades of this frequency, different grades of this body and reality. Other proprioceptive sensations to be aware of is the sensation all on the skin, all around the body. It can only be described as a sense of luminosity on the skin. Very hard to put into words. It's a tingling sensation. When you're in tune with the fire element of the vibrational frequency, you'll feel the warmth moving through your body. You might feel coolness. Another typical way of experiencing prana is a sense of wetness. I can't explain that very easily. It feels as if there's like wind or wetness, like a wet wind in and through and on your body. That's another way to experience the energetics. That's a very interesting one, because that's like when your energy is moving through particular nadis or particular meridians in the body. Another proprioceptive thing to look out for is the sensation of resonance and vibration on your hands and your feet, on the palms of your hands and the palms of your feet. This is quite a big one. When you're vibrating sacred names or working with mantra, you might start to notice this resonance on your hands and on your feet. It's completely natural. It can make your hands feel very strange, like a tingling sensation. And then when you look at your hands, they almost look like they're not your hands. They'll look really large. Really interesting. Because all of your perception starts to merge and shift consciousness. When you're feeling that energy resonating on your hands, your perception of your sight will also be changing, as will your hearing. That's when you'll start to hear the very high-pitched sounds that I'm speaking of. And if you go into the high-pitched sounds, I never mentioned this before, it can become very, very busy. You can get to the point where it sounds like buzzing bees. Very intense. Buzzing bees and crackling electricity overhead. It's a very unnerving sound, actually. But that's when you go really deep into the sensations. Another proprioceptive sensation to look out for is the arousal of your kundalini and your sexual energy. You'll feel these currents moving around your body, and you'll feel that sense in your sexual center of like that lovely, warm, oozing, even a cool center on your gonads if you're a man, with a warmth moving through your body, with other sensations, currents flowing through you. And that sense of arousal, but not becoming sexually, objectively aroused. It's like that excitement that you feel. That's when the sphere of the moon is awakening within you, the lunar energies. This is what drives your procreative urge, drives your desires. It's when your Svadhisthana chakra is becoming awakened. Other sensations you could gain is a sense of tasting metal. When you're tasting that sense of metal, it's almost like a metal taste in the back of your throat. Very hard to explain. It's a particular kind of a taste where you start to notice that when you're tasting that taste, the whole world seems to be looking as if it's surreal. And the surrealness of the world is almost like it's... the walls are breathing. You'll notice a movement in all things. All things have got pause. All things seem to be breathing. It's a very strange sensation. The earth under your feet would be... you feel like you're melting into the earth. It's another sensation that you get. That sensation where you feel yourself melting into the earth and you can't quite tell where the earth begins, where your feet begin or end. And you feel that sensation of merging with the earth physically. And that you can actually feel the resonance running through the earth. And resonance and vibration is something that is often accompanied, where one is experiencing this resonant frequency in one's body, kind of a vibrational humming almost, but you feel it. You can hear it as well. Sense of smell. One will start to smell smells that aren't present. If you're like me, you'll start smelling frankincense out of the blue and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm smelling frankincense. I've spent a lot of my life smelling frankincense. I love the smell of frankincense. And so frankincense is important for me personally. It's a powerful relationship I've built with frankincense over the last 35 years. Plus, actually, more.
I love you more than the whole world.
I love you more than anything in the whole world. Please don't disturb my video again, my boy.
Okay, but...
So, the sense of smell can reveal various different incenses. I love you too. Now, please let me work. And this profound sensation can stimulate all your other senses. It starts to move you through time in a sense. The sense of smell is very connected to the sense of time in a sense, as is the sense of perception of the visual field as well. And one can basically start to experience the reality of the physical reality around oneself as a very, very abstract smelly world, and you'll start to be carried upon smells through the past, through the future, into all sorts of directions of being. And the other experience that one can have, which is a more abstract experience, is the experience of thought. Now, this is very abstract, but this is also experiencing the energetic reality. This is deep connection into the astral plane. One will notice that thoughts are like objects. One will be able to feel the thought. And words will have shape. That's a hard one to describe to you. The shape feeling of words, where words have a sensation and they have an impact all of their own. And you can feel the solidness of the words. And the thoughts, when you think thoughts of words, there will be an image related to that thought. And there'll be you'll hear words and every word will seem like it's onomatopoeic, to give it a term. And every word will seem like it comes from some kind of a sound. That sound is representative of thought, but you'll be not thinking it, you'll be experiencing it as an object of reality. And so these are the ways in which we can experience energy. The astral template being reflected through the etheric. And obviously there would be more as well, more abstract ways. These are the most common ways that I've experienced, that I've learnt. And obviously this doesn't come from books. This comes from training, a life of practice. So as you train and develop, you'll notice these sensations will become more and more objective. You'll start becoming aware of how the energy is flowing around you and resonating through you. This is the Bush Whisperer coming at you from the most beautiful penguin sanctuary. Keep it real, keep it sweet. Enjoy the energy and have an absolutely gorgeous day, week and month. Om Shanti.